Hello to my kings, queens, and in-betweens. I'm Valerie, and welcome to my channel, The Bookish Valkyrie. So today's video is a monthly wrap-up for the month of January, and I am adding updates for my bingo board to the monthly wrap-ups. So this is what my bingo board looks like now. I have marked off quite a few things. I was really kind of surprised at how many I marked off. I'm going to organize this video starting with the books that I was able to mark off something on my bingo board with. So I'm going to use Blue Flag Volume 1 as my book with a color in the title. I read 5 volumes of this series, so when I get to volume 5 is when I will talk about the series. I am going to use Blue Flag Volume 2 and Volume 4 as my books with a festival in it. I could also use a different book for this, but I have more than enough. I had a shocking amount of festivals in this month's reading, and that leaves me with volumes 3 and 5 left out of the Blue Flag volumes that I read in the month of January, and I wanted to mention those here so that I could talk about Blue Flag on the whole. I think that it is a really great series, and I don't want to spoil anything, but basically the premise is that we have a lot of messy love triangles going on, like several triangles. The main premise centers around these 3 students. We've got Futaba over here, and she has a crush on Toma over here, and Toma is best friends with Taichi and secretly in love with him. So that is like the very basic premise that I can give you about this story. It is a lot deeper than that, in my opinion. The series covers a lot of issues surrounding figuring out your identity, figuring out who you are and how you fit in the world and how you fit with the people in your world. And it's surprisingly subtle with some of its themes, at least more subtle than I am accustomed to seeing in any kind of YA, whether it is manga or novels or novellas or graphic novels. They don't tend to be all that subtle. The character that I actually am liking the most is a character named Mommy. You start to see in volume 5 that there's a lot more to her than you originally view her as in the previous 4 volumes, because she's really just like kind of a 2-dimensional, basic, almost mean girl character in the first 4 volumes. But then you start to see a shift in her character here. You start to see things more from her perspective and understanding why she acts the way she does and why she is doing what she does in this volume, what she starts to do in this volume. And then in the next couple volumes, she just evolves more and more, and I really love her. So that was my surprising standout in this series so far. I am currently reading the last volume, and I'll talk about the last 3 volumes in my next monthly wrap-up. The next bingo box that I got to mark off was cataloging all of my physical TBR. I did do a video for that previously, and I'll link that in the iCards if I could figure that out. If not, it'll be easy enough to find in my past videos. It's just like 2 videos ago, I think. And the next book that I want to talk about is This Delicious Death by Kaale. This book is going in my square for a book where the heroine runs, because there is a whole ton of running in this one. There were a couple of other squares that this could have fit in, but I felt like this one was the most appropriate one for the book. I didn't put it in my space for a trans or NB MC because it focuses more on the cisgendered girl in that couple. I also didn't put it in the sapphic relationship square because the sapphic relationship is very backseat to the main storyline, and the main storyline definitely leans hard into situations where the heroine has to run. So anyhow, bingo board stuff aside, I really loved this book. I gave it a 4.5, and I just really had a good time with this book. I loved Kaale Cottingham's first book, My Dearest Darkest. It was beautiful and crazy. This was a different type of beautiful and crazy. Definitely much more of a crazy teens doing crazy things with, a zombie plot. Basically, in this book, 2 years previous to when this book takes place, there was a zombie pandemic. Basically, the ice caps were melting and it released a virus, and that virus led to a event that they have called the Halloween, and it made people into hollow people. Basically, they are zombies. They crave flesh, and if they get hungry enough, they go mindless and go into like a feeding frenzy. And so they also happen to have developed a synthetic flesh that they call sin flesh, and as long as everyone keeps topped up on sin flesh, they don't go into a frenzy, and they can return to their lives as they were living them before, at least, to a certain degree. There's definitely a lot of social commentary involved, but it is just a really fun horror romp where your main characters are the monsters, but they're not the only ones, and they definitely get to face down some very familiar monsters. And I'm gonna leave it at that because I don't want to spoil anything, but I absolutely recommend this Delicious Death. I think it's fantastic, and if you like zombies, if you like horror, and you like it in a YA format, this is that. There is plenty of blood and gore, so don't think that it being YA means that the author is pulling any punches. She is not. But if you've read My Dearest Darkest, you already know that she goes there. And she goes definitely solidly into the horror end of things. And next up on the bingo board, I have the read 12 banned books square, and I am putting one book into that tally. Is Flamer by Mark Corrado. I read this on KU. It is a graphic novel featuring a young boy's discovery of his sexuality, and it's at like a Boy Scout camp kind of situation. I don't see anything wrong with this, and even if I did, again, it shouldn't be banned. You just shouldn't ban books. It's just wrong. Anyhow, I gave this a 3.5 star. I thought that it was good. I thought that I would have enjoyed it more if we had gotten a little bit more. I don't know. I kind of was feeling like it needed a little bit more storytelling at the end. But I really did enjoy it. It was a good book. I just didn't particularly identify with it or connect with it on a personal level, but it's very well done, very well depicted. There were certain scenes that definitely connected with me, like regarding his family and his father and his mother. The way that it was drawn was really impactful, and I think that this would be a great book for a teenage boy to read, especially if he's questioning his sexuality. And then in my next square, read a nonfiction book. I have Freedom is a Constant Struggle by Angela Y. Davis. Basically, this is a collection of essays and articles from Angela Y. Davis's career during the segment of time that covers the rise of the Black Lives Matter movement and the Me Too movement and how they correspond. And it is covering Ferguson and many similar cases that have been overlooked over the years. And it was very interesting. I feel like this was a good place for me to start with the intersectionality of Palestinian politics and American politics, particularly regarding the Black community and civil rights movements, and also with the feminist movement. This was a really impactful read for me. I ended up going back and rereading parts of it several times over. What it really ended up doing for me is making me want to delve even further into all of the subjects that were discussed throughout this collection of essays and articles, and the intersectionality that was depicted here. So I know that I have another one of her books that I will be picking up probably sometime later this year. I originally picked it up because of the intersectionality regarding Palestine, but it isn't really as much of a focus as I was expecting, so I will definitely be seeking out other books on Palestine and the situation there and the history there. But it was definitely a book worth picking up. If you have a Kobo Plus membership, the ebook is free there. And if you have a Audible membership, the audiobook is free there. It's included in the membership. And I do think I will be picking this up in the physical format as well to add to my collection, because I think I will be coming back to it. There were definitely a couple of articles that I found particularly impactful, and I will definitely want to go over again. So this last box that I was able to mark off is Bonkers Authors Behaving Badly. I was kind of hoping that we'd be able to go a month or two without marking this off. I wasn't going to count any basic level, what I would consider like a basic level of an author behaving badly. I wanted it to be something that was bonkers, that was just, what? Like, what? But unfortunately, we had a few contenders. First, there was the Laurel K. Hamilton situation, where she felt the need to denounce the choice of going into self-publishing and indie publishing, and saying, why would you go indie when you could go traditional? And the things that she said were very uneducated on the current status of indie publishing and self-publishing and what that means. Very insulting to any indie published author, and just condescending to a really gross degree. I was not terribly shocked by her stance, because she just doesn't seem to have a very good grasp of reality, especially after listening to a few of her other videos or interviews. Some of the things that she said have rubbed me wrong in the past. So this particular stance didn't feel out of character. She's just really disconnected. She's very much surrounded by people who tell her what she wants to hear, and she doesn't seem to have a very good grasp of the world and where things stand. Basically, I was kind of waffling on whether or not this counted as bonkers authors behaving badly. Definitely an author behaving badly, but I wasn't quite on board with calling it bonkers. But then along came Shell Rose. I'm not exactly sure where in the timeline this actually happened, but I didn't hear about it until after I had already heard about the Laurel K. Hamilton situation. So Shell Rose was called out for a scene in one of her books as needing to have been handled differently, or needing at least to have had like a content warning for rape. And she decided to push back on that call out and said that it wasn't rape because they were married. And I don't know if you need to hear this or if you know anyone who needs to hear this, but marital rape is rape. Consent is not implied just because you got married. Every instance of intercourse needs to involve consent. If there is no consent, it is rape. If you are married, it's still rape. So yeah, there's a bonkers author behaving badly right there. But then I felt like, wow, that was really bad. That's really bad. It's a bad stance to take. This next author kind of dethroned her. And this next author is somebody I'm sure you have already heard about. If you haven't, there are many articles. There are lots of people who covered this in their bookish community videos. For instance, the people that I heard this from were Izzy from Happy for Now, Jess Owens, and with Cindy. All three of them have much more in-depth and much better discussed videos about this. But this is regarding J.D. Baker. He has apparently, I've never heard of him before this, but apparently he is a New York Times bestseller, and he has had books in the past that were picked up for movie adaptations, including the book that he was trying to promo with some book talkers. Seems normal. Except that he wanted these book talkers to do the promo videos partially nude. And on top of that, he was going to not pay them well at all. And he was going to withhold the right to pay them at all, depending on how he judged their partial nude videos. He was going to review each of the videos individually, personally. And if he approved it, that would trigger payment. And if he didn't approve it, he would get back to them with, some notes on how they can get their video approved. Yeah. And then he tried to say, oh, no, that wasn't me. That was my PR company, that I own. I gave them my access to my personal email, and they sent that out without my approval. My bad. Oops. And then his agent dropped him. His PR companies dropped him, which is kind of funny since he's, a partial owner in his PR company. And anyhow, regardless, JD gets the crown on this one. He is my official bonkers author behaving badly. So there's that. So yeah, those are all of the bingo squares that I have marked off for the month of January. And that leaves me with one more book to talk about, and that is Big Witch Energy by Molly Harper. It is an Audible original, so if you have an Audible subscription, it's included. And I really enjoyed this. I love everything that Molly Harper writes, honestly, and this new witch series of hers is definitely right in line with what I would expect from her. I very much enjoyed it. And I gave this one a 4 out of 5 stars. I'm not really sure what would have pushed it into a 5, but it wasn't quite there for me. And I forgot to tell you my ratings on these, but it was a mix of 4 and 5s, or 4.5s and 5s. My favorite out of those 5 volumes is the 5th volume. Definitely a 5 for me. I had a really great time with all of the books that I read this month, and thank you for joining me and letting me talk to you about books. I'll see you next video. Stars shining bright above me. Breezes seem to whisper. Sycamore tree. Dream a little dreamer. Hello to my kings, queens, and so today's video is a monthly wrap-up for the month of July, and since I have a monthly wrap-up for the month of July, and so today's video is a monthly wrap-up for the month of July. I'm a dum-dum. To mark that off, I put the prompt I made the prompt, I read, I did the first one